Hello, my lovely friend, and welcome to the Soul Care Intuitive Podcast. I'm your host, Melinda Grubbs, and in this podcast, we're going to show you that you're not just ordinary, you're extraordinary. I never had any spiritual experiences as a child, and I did not discover my own psychic abilities until my late 30s. I love to share all that I have learned to show you that we all already have these skills inside of us, just screaming to be let loose. So if you're ready to awaken your soul, sit back, relax, and enjoy the ride. Hello and welcome to this week's episode of the Soul Care Intuitive Podcast. In a previous episode, I talked about the forgiveness that I gave to the woman that killed my father, and I wanted to dive into that topic in this episode this week. And it's a little bit difficult to talk about, but it's also joyous because I feel free. But my father was killed by somebody in 2014, and you can go back to episode 1 to hear the whole story. But this woman killed my father and then left him on the side of the road to die. She knew she hit him and then took off and actually tried to hide from the authorities, tried to hide her car. She was on her way to work and she was actually late. And it happened to be her birthday this day that she killed my father. And she was on her way to work when the accident happened. So when she hit him, she just kept driving and kept going and went to work. And from what we heard at the trial, she parked her car in a spot that she normally didn't. And she parked it in a way to where you couldn't see the damage that she had caused, because she hit a 200-pound man. And so you can imagine what her car looked like. I can imagine what her car looked like. And she went and worked a shift at work after she killed someone. And this was all over the news where I live. I think if it wasn't all over the news, she probably would have gotten away with it, at least for a little while. But where I live, this was just all over the news night and day. And the accident happened on a Monday. And she actually came on a news station with her lawyer on a Wednesday and had her lawyer say that she wasn't going to turn herself in until after the Thanksgiving holiday so that she could be with her family. And meanwhile, I'm trying to cope with everything that happened, and my dad will never get another Thanksgiving with his family, and that was really hard to hear. I think I want to start off with saying that if you had asked me to forgive her, even within 5 years of the accident, I would have laughed in your face. I would have thrown a fit. I would have been angry. I probably would have stopped talking to you. The journey of forgiveness was really hard for me. My father was everything in the world to me. Every single thing in the world that you could ever think of is what my dad meant to me. And when I was born, the first word I ever said was Dada. And I loved my dad more than words could ever say. And just because you forgive somebody who hurt you or who hurt somebody you love doesn't mean you love that person any less. I love my dad more than there are enough words in the English language to say. But forgiving this person who killed him, who took that part of me away, has really freed me. I felt like a zombie of a person for so many years. I felt heartless and loveless and cold. It was hard for me to feel anything at all before I started working on forgiveness. Of course, I had my daughter, and God, when I look at her, even back then, just it lights up my soul to see her, to hug her, to be near her. But any other relationship in my life, any other friend, coworker, partner, anything I had, I didn't feel anything. I had been in a few relationships and I couldn't bring myself to feel anything And they were amazing and wonderful people that I was with. They were amazing and wonderful people that loved me and wanted to take care of me, but I had no capacity to love, to feel, to even want to feel. And the only time that I felt like I could is after I forgave this person. I felt like the biggest weight, and I know that is such a cliche to say, but I felt like the biggest weight had been lifted off of me once I worked on forgiving her. So I want to talk about that journey and how I did that, because a lot of you have reached out and asked me, how could you do that? How could anybody be forgiven? And I want to say this, and I believe this with all of my heart, and I know some of you may not, and that's okay, that at the core of who we are, the soul of who we are, is love. This person that killed my father, her soul is nothing but love. Her soul is perfect. Her soul is beautiful. But when we enter a human body, you cannot tell me that you yourself have never done, and I know killing somebody is completely like off the charts, but go with me here. You can't tell me you've never done something that you regret, even something major, something huge. When we step into this human body, we forget who we truly and really are. We forget that we are love. We forget that we're a community. We forget that our skin color does not separate us. We forget that our ethnicity does not mean that we are different on the inside. I mean, there's so much social media and programming to make us want to hate each other, but at the core of who we are love, we are joy, we are perfect, we are compassion, we are community. And that's no different for the woman that killed my father. Now, I want to say that there are sick people in this world. Absolutely, I agree with that. Are there evil people who do evil things? Absolutely, 100%. But the woman that killed my father, she did not set out to do that, and that's how I'm able to forgive her. If she had maliciously set out to do it, I don't believe that I could have. So I do want to preface that I was able to forgive her because she didn't do it on purpose. She didn't wake up that day and decide to kill somebody. She didn't wake up one day and say, you know what, I'm going to ruin a family's life today. It was an accident, and she was scared and ran away. So the journey to forgive her started after I hit rock bottom one day. I was used to go home and take a leave PM, and I talk about this in my book, Mediumship is Easy. I talk about my story, my journey, what happened, how I hit rock bottom. This book is also about healing, which a lot of my journey was healing. And I was taking a leave PM, and it got to a point where it stopped working the way that it used to. Like, I used to be able to take 3 and go to sleep all day, all night. And I would just come home and pop the leave PM like nothing. I wouldn't even think about it. It was so automatic for me that I would go home and take this leave PM because I just wanted to be a void. I wanted to be a void. And it didn't help that my dad lived with me and I had to see his things and his stuff. And taking the leave PM made it bearable. It made it so that I could keep living for my daughter, because otherwise I don't know that I could have. And so one night I woke up in the middle of the night and I thought, why am I awake? My leave PM's not working. I had the worst headache. And my dad's flag was in my room at the time, right above my bed. He was in the army, and so I had his flag in my room. And I was just so upset with myself for how I had allowed my life to fall apart in that moment. I was embarrassed because I didn't want my dad to not be proud of me. You know, there's a lot of people that talk about their parents in a negative way, but if I ever thought that I disappointed my dad, that would be the worst thing in the world to me. And I remember looking at that flag and thinking that I was disappointing him, that I had let my life fall apart, that I had let relationships that were wonderful go because I couldn't feel anything without him. And so that set me on the journey of healing myself. It set me on a journey of trying to figure out how I could get my life back. And I read this book called The Body Keeps the Score. It's so amazing. I will link it below this video. As a matter of fact, let me write that down right now in my notebook so I don't forget. The Body Keeps the Score. I will link it down below. This book is amazing. And so I read this book, and it talks about how your body holds on to the energy of strong emotions, of situations you've gone through, of traumatic events. That energy is stored in the body. Now, my dad died 10 years ago. Actually, this November 24th is going to be 10 years. My dad died November 24th, 2014. And I think I am going to publish this episode on that day because I am here now because of my dad. And I know that what happened to him sent me on this journey for a reason, and I would give anything to have my dad back, but I'm very thankful. Anyway, The Body Keeps the Score tells you that your body is holding on to these things, and it's creating blocks in your life, in your mind, in your subconscious. It's creating blocks in things happening around you, manifestations. It creates blocks in how you feel. And it really resonated with me because I felt absolutely, literally nothing unless I was with my daughter. Literally felt not an ounce of a single emotion unless I was with her. And so this book, it helped me in more ways than I could ever say. It helped me realize that I was storing the emotion of that event in my body. It helped me realize that I needed to release that emotion, that pain, that trauma through forgiveness in order to heal my body, my soul, my life, to be able to move forward. And that's not to say that that was easy. Oh my God, I can't tell you how many times I punched a pillow screaming her name. I can't tell you how many times I would have to go out in my car at work and scream because the anger was just wanting to come out, which is a good thing. It's a good thing because you want that anger the hell out of your body. Okay? When you start to heal, work on your inner child, work on your life, work on forgiveness, whatever healing you're doing, you want that out of there. And so what I started doing was writing her letters. And this is how I started my journey of forgiveness. I would write her a letter about how I was angry, how I was so mad, how dare you get to take away my heart, my soul, my person. He was mine. He wasn't yours to take. And I can't tell you how powerful that was just in and of itself, is writing her those letters. And over time, as I'm starting to write these letters and I'm starting to get these feelings out and I'm starting to be angry and I'm starting to cry, I noticed that my letters started to change. I started to see her as a human being. I started to see her as somebody who made a mistake. She did at the end of the trial, which kind of upset me as well, because she just wanted to get away with it. Maybe she was afraid. I don't know what her mentality was, but at the end of it, she looked over at me and she said, "I'm sorry." She mouthed it to me through the window. There was like a little waiting room or whatever that we were in after the verdict came. And she looked at me and she said, "I'm sorry." And so I know that she was sorry, and I know that she didn't mean to do it. And so I noticed in these letters that I was starting to see her as a person who made a mistake. And so I started writing my letters with less anger in them. And I felt in my body that the anger was dissipating as well. It's a feeling that it's very hard to explain unless you've gone through it yourself. You feel this void. You feel numb. You feel pain. You feel anger. And then you start to feel less of that and you start to feel okay. I still have all those letters. I have saved every one of them. And I read them back before I made this video. And, I started seeing her as a person who made a mistake. I started seeing her as somebody with remorse. I started seeing her as a human being who also has a life. And she made a mistake. And it's one that I personally feel that she will live with and regret for the rest of her life. We had to go to 2 or 3 of her court hearings where she was up for parole. And the first time that she was up for parole, she did not get it. And I can even picture her right now, clear as day in my mind. I can see her and she looked defeated. She looked sad. She looked upset. She looked like she realized she made a mistake. She looked sorry. And then the second time we went to the parole hearing, she ended up getting parole, but that's a long story. And she had only served 6 years of her 20 maximum year sentence. And in that hearing, we all got to speak and we all got to say something. So my sister and I both said what we needed to say. And at the end, she was allowed to speak and she was very sorry. And the words that she said, they resonated with me. I knew that she was not lying. She was telling the truth. You could see it in her face, in her body language, in her words. And especially now that I've become an energy healer and I can read energy and, I've really worked on my throat chakra and hearing the truth, knowing the truth. When I look back on that moment, I know that she was being authentic. She was very, very sorry. And like I said before, we've all made terrible mistakes we wish we could take back. Obviously, not any as big as killing somebody, but I've made mistakes I wish I could take back. I've done things or said things I wish I could take back. I've hurt people I wish I hadn't hurt. I hurt my mom for many, many years, and if I could take that back, I would. I wasn't a perfect child. I wasn't a perfect person, and none of us are. And I remember thinking, who am I to judge her if I've made mistakes too? I believe with all of my heart that if she could go back and change it, she absolutely would. And that's another reason I'm able to forgive. I do want to say that cliche phrase of you don't forgive for them, you forgive for you is so true. So true. When I started writing those letters to her and seeing her as a person, it opened me up. I was getting my life back because I was forgiving her. I was starting to feel emotions again because I was forgiving her and seeing her mistake and seeing her as a person. I got the capacity back to love and to feel and to experience joy again because I was able to forgive her and release that from my body. When you read that book, and I highly recommend you do, The Body Keeps the Score. The Body Keeps the Score. When you read that book, it will change your life and you will completely understand what I'm saying. That energy is blocking you. That energy is creating problems in your life. Why would you want to hold on to that? If you have somebody in your life that you want or need to forgive, write them letters. Start out being angry. You're allowed to be angry. There are times where I'm still pissed at her. There are times where I still lay on the bed and scream into it as hard as I can and beat on the bed because I want to share something with my dad and I can't, and she got to take that away. But at the end of the day, it is me and my body that is free because I was able to forgive her and release that from myself. I don't sit in pain every day anymore. I don't sit in a void anymore. Of course, it still hurts. Even if my dad had been gone 100 years, I would still sit here and cry. Because he got to be taken away from me, but the life that I have now, and I know my dad is helping me have it, is beautiful. And I know he's still with me. But I don't have to hold on to anger and hatred. I don't want to. I don't have to. It serves me no good. It serves me no purpose to hang on to anger, frustration. Letting it go set me free. It set me free in ways that I didn't even know I was restricting myself until I started forgiving. Writing those letters really helped me see where I needed to forgive, how I needed to forgive, started to help me see her as a person, as a human being who made a mistake. Then from there, I would do like shadow work prompts. I would look them up online, forgiveness shadow work prompts that really helped me so much. And I'm thankful and I'm glad that I forgave her. I'm thankful and I'm glad that I can breathe and I can be free from this burden of anger and pain. And like I said, sometimes it comes back up, but at the end of the day, I know that I'm free, and that's what matters to me, that I am free, that I am happy, that I'm living a life that makes me happy, brings me joy, living a life that can heal and help other people because I let that go. If I had stayed in that void, I would have no life. I would have nothing but a leave PM and my daughter. And that's not a life. So if there's anybody in your life that you need to forgive, try little things to get you there, because you're forgiving them for you. You're healing you. They're not the ones living in your body in that pain. You are. You have to be the one to heal it and let it go. And it will bring you so much freedom, I promise you. Just start little by little. Chip away at that little by little. And the more that you start to let go of that energy that is stuck in your body, the more freedom you will experience. Thank you for being here today on this episode of the Soul Care Intuitive Podcast. I love creating these for you. If there's any topics you want to hear about, more about my journey, about what I do, about life, healing, love, joy, mediumship, psychic work, whatever it is, I love making these videos. Let me know, leave me a comment. Don't forget to subscribe, leave me a review, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.